what a difference a year makes. I believe it was last year on this exact day, the Chicago Bears fired Matt Eberflus, which was the first time in franchise history that the Bears fired a head coach in the middle of the season. Fast forward till now, today, and the same Chicago Bears are currently the number one team in the entire NFC and on their way to the playoffs. You want to talk about from worst to first, that is one of the best turnarounds in NFL history. And what you might not want to admit is that a big part of that turnaround, a big reason why the Bears have had the turnaround that they have had, is because of the move of one Ryan Poles. Yes, it is time to give Ryan Poles his flowers, and there's some talk about him potentially being NFL Executive of the Year. Let's discuss. Welcome back to Bears Yard. This your boy Vipe, and I'm here to tell you, Bears fans, whether you love Ryan Poles or hate Ryan Poles, any expectation that you had for the Chicago Bears over the past 2 years have been because of the move made by Ryan Poles. Obviously, it is very easy to talk about his misses. We could talk about the Valence Jones or the Matt Eberfluses or the Nate Davidsons of the world. All the mistakes that Poles have made since he become GM back in 2022, right? But what we don't talk about enough is the hits. And some of his hits have been absolutely massive. And they have led to the Chicago Bears being exactly where we are right now, number one in the entire NFC. Obviously, the biggest move of the Ryan Poles tenure was the Carolina Panthers trade. And oh my Lord, that one trade changed the entire trajectory of the Chicago Bears program. Because of the Carolina Panthers trade, we gave away our number one pick to them back in, I think, 2023, and they drafted Bryce Young, and we ended up getting out of that trade Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Tyreek Stevenson, Darnell Wright, Torrey Taylor, and Luther Burden III. I mean, what? Are you kidding me? That trade will be studied in GM curriculums for the rest of NFL time. It was that massive of a trade, one of the biggest trades in NFL history, and it directly benefited the Chicago Bears and was architected by one Ryan Poles. And then we could talk about the draft picks that he has hit on, at least we think he's hit on. Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, Austin Booker. Then we could come to this year. Colston Loveland, Luther Burden III, Ozzie Trapillo, Luke Newman, Cal Monungai. All of these players that were drafted over the past 2 years are major contributors right now in the Chicago Bears run to 9-3. And that's not even talking about what happened this offseason when he traded for Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson. And then he signed in free agency Drew Dahlman and Grady Jarrett. So, again, you could talk about all the mistakes that he's made, but we also have to talk about the wins that he stacked up since becoming GM. Again, all of these moves that were made over the past 2 years has led directly to where we are as an organization. And let's talk about the next biggest move outside of the Carolina trade that has to be where they are right now, and that is the landing of one Ben Johnson. Now, I know some of y'all probably frowning your face like, Viper, it's not Ryan Poles that got Ben Johnson here. It's Caleb Williams, blah, 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 blah. No. I'm not going to let you do Ryan Poles dirty like that, because trust me when I tell you, Ben Johnson would not be here if it were not for Ryan Poles. Remember back when Ben Johnson was developing the ball and he had multiple options last offseason? Had the Bears on the radar, the Jaguars were on the radar, Raiders were on the radar with Tom Brady, this, that, and the other, right? What was the number one thing that Ben Johnson camp was talking about as far as where he was going to go? It was having that organizational alignment with the GM. Now, at the time, a lot of people felt like that meant that Ben Johnson wanted his own GM. But I told y'all months ago that was never what that meant. What Ben Johnson was alluding to was that whoever was the GM in place, he wanted to be on the same page with that GM, share similar ideology, similar thoughts about how to build a football team, knowing that this GM could be a person that he could work with to build the program the way that Ben Johnson wanted to build. So Ryan Poles was a big reason why Ben Johnson chose the Chicago Bears job, because him and Johnson shared the ideology and the processes of how or what it takes to build a football program. I mean, think about what happened right after Ben Johnson got here, right? So we landed Ben Johnson in January of this year. And then I believe in March, that's when free agency began. What did the Chicago Bears do almost immediately when free agency started? Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman, although Thuney and Jackson obviously again were trades, but they happened right before free agency. And then when free agency started, we signed Drew Dahlman. So right there, that showed you that Johnson and Pope were on the same page, because they both realized that the Bears' offensive line was a massive weakness in 2024, and it had to be fixed immediately if the Bears were going to contend in 2025. So the fact that the Bears addressed it so quickly should tell you that Ben Johnson and Ryan Pope were always on the same page about how to get the Bears to where they are right now during week 14 of 2025. And then you go to the draft for this year, right? So first draft pick, Colston Loveland, and then Luther Burden. A lot of people, including myself, were kind of shocked at the Luther Burden draft pick, but Ben Johnson wanted speed in the wide receiver room. So Ryan Pope went out there and got him some speed. And then, not being done with the offensive line, the second round pick that we drafted this year, Ozzie Trapillo, who is now starting left tackle for the team. Now, obviously, there was this big left tackle competition in the offseason between Ozzie and Braxton and Theo Benedict, but Theo Benedict is injured. I think, Braxton Jones underperformed, and then they replaced him with Theo Benedict, and then Benedict got injured, and now Ozzie Trapillo is in there, and they are not removing him, so he's holding it down. He's developed to a comfortable spot where they are comfortable with him playing at starting left tackle. So again, all of this points to Ben Johnson and Ryan Pope being on the same page as far as how to build this team up to be a contender. And not just a contender in 2025. No. Ben Johnson and Ryan Pope want to build a sustained contender for years to come. Ryan Pope talked about this when he first got introduced back in 2022. He wants to build through the draft and have sustained success. And Ben Johnson is the same way. The Bears, in the way that they built the team, if the Bears go to the playoffs and do damage, they're going to be back next year, barring injury. Because guess what? The Chicago Bears have 8 draft picks next year. And I believe they have all their draft picks in 2027. So the Bears, Ryan Pope, Ben Johnson are going to continue to build this team through the draft. And if the future drafts go anyway how this past draft went, the Bears are going to be a problem for a long time in the NFC. And you still have Caleb Williams on his rookie contract, which means you can go out there and add necessary pieces like maybe a Trey Henderson will be available, or maybe the Browns will finally be willing to trade Myles Garrett. I don't know. But the Bears are in a special window right now with Caleb still being on his rookie deal, and us having our future draft capital in place to continue to build a team and having the money available to make moves should they become available. So you have to give Ryan Pope his due, considering where the team was last year, 5-12, the laughing stock of the NFL, to now 9-3 and number 1 in the entire NFC. And that is because of the move that he has made from last year to this year, and working hand in hand with Ben Johnson to build a strong contender in 2025 and beyond. But how are you feeling about Ryan Pope right now? Do you feel like Ryan Pope should be in consideration for Executive of the Year? Or are you still mad at Ryan Pope for some of the missions that he had leading up to this point? Drop a comment and subscribe to The Yard for all things Chicago Bears.